I know you guys like scary interesting. So we're gonna watch another scary interesting video. What happened at this campsite still haunts Oregon. Oregon's such a weird ass fucky ass state though. Let's find out what happened at this campsite. Because I haven't heard about this. I'm sure. I don't know anything about Oregon besides like pretty forests and stuff.
On June 22nd, 1977,
Oh,
two
1977.
women stopped the night in a campground after a long day of biking.
Uh-huh.
Although it was a little more secluded than their usual stops, it seemed like a beautiful place to sleep. However, as night fell, both women started to get a terrible feeling, like something bad was going to happen.
Oh no.
But unfortunately, they both ignored the feeling because of how exhausted they were.
What?
This would end up being a huge mistake, and what would happen next would be one of the most disturbing things in Oregon state history. Although the events in this video are fleeting and non-descriptive, they are still highly disturbing, so viewer discretion is strongly advised.
Oh boy, this is gonna freak me the fuck out, I'm sure. Like, I don't know. Ignoring creepy stranger in the woods feeling, I would never ignore that feeling. Ever, 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 ever.
By June 22nd, 1977, Terry Jentz and Ava Goldman were 7 days into what was supposed to be the biggest adventure of.
I like how they're not related, by the way, but like, look at them. They're like white women that are brunettes, right? And I bet people told them all the time that they looked like twins. Look at them. They're completely different people, but I bet people were like, oh, you guys look like sisters. Are you guys related?
Their lives. Terry, who was 19 years old, was from Illinois, and 20-year-old Ava was from Massachusetts.
Why
and
are they
both met as roommates at Yale.
Yale?
Together, they had set out to ride their bicycles across the
They're from Yale? And they should have fucking known better.
U.S. on the newly opened Trans-America Trail.
Oh.
This was a journey of roughly 4,200 miles and was expected to take most of the summer. Their ride began in Astoria, Oregon, after a bus ride west from Chicago, and the original plan involved several other Yale students. However, those plans had gradually fallen apart until Terry and Ava were the only ones left.
Everyone else bitched out. I think it's so romantic to do like journey style romantic to do like a bike ride cross country. I think I would like that in theory, but I think in practice I would hate it by like the middle of the first day. I think middle of the first day I'd be like, fuck this shit. Lesbians? I don't think so. I think these are just two girly pops.
They decided to go anyway, riding the cross-country trail as a duo instead. Strangely enough, though, for the first stretch of the trip, they rode with a slightly older couple they had met who were also traveling east by bike.
Oh.
That arrangement briefly ended in Sisters, Oregon, where the four agreed to split up and meet up again the next day in the town of Mitchell. From there, Terry and Ava were on their own for the night. By that point, they had already made impressive time. In less than a week, they had come down the coast, crossed the Willamette Valley, and endured a grueling climb over Mackenzie Pass. By the time they reached Sisters on June 22nd, they were exhausted, so they stopped for ice cream and rested briefly before carrying onward to Klein Falls State Park outside Redmond, where they planned to camp.
They haven't even left Oregon and it's been a week. Holy shit. Oh my god, it's probably such a thinking about doing the whole fucking country. That's insane. Kirukazi, hello, hi. I always saw my parents get for the mini titles. I thought I said my parents get divorced. Yo.
Despite being a beautiful place, though, the park was not an ideal place for them to stay. In fact, by their own standards, it was the wrong place.
Oh.
Before the trip, the two had agreed to only spend their nights in established campgrounds and to stick to places that at least offered some security. Klein Falls was not that at all. It was a day-use area, not a campsite, and overnight camping was not allowed. Ava was a bit uneasy about stopping there, but Terry insisted. After the ride they had just put themselves through, stopping as soon as possible made sense. They were tired, losing daylight, and not.
So when they like share their feelings about like this person was uneasy, but this person like insisted, like how do we know? Did they live? I'm hoping they live. I think they live, right? They live, right?
All in the mood to go hunting for something better. So after a short debate, the two friends headed down into the park for the night. The park sat along the Deschutes River, and in the fading light, it struck Terry as so beautiful that it barely seemed possible that anything could happen there. When they arrived, they found a good spot to camp and pitched their tent about 100 feet from the road. With that settled, they made some dinner and talked with a few picnickers who were surprised to hear that the two young women were biking across the country by themselves. As the daylight disappeared and the park's other visitors did the
They should have
same,
gotten a gun.
Klein Falls started to become something entirely different.
I would never bike cross country with just me and one other friend without a gun.
The busy daytime atmosphere had faded, and the sound of passing cars went with it. What remained was darkness, the sound of the river, and a sense that they were very much alone. As this setting changed, a strange feeling began to creep over Terry. Something felt off. She described it to Ava as some kind of animal instinct, the kind of feeling you get when you're being watched. And Ava
Don't
had to
ignore
admit that she felt it too. But even so, they decided to stay.
They should know better. Humans have that instinct for a reason. Humans have a very good instinct of being watched.
They were both exhausted, and exhaustion can play just as many tricks in the mind as darkness, so they just wrote the feeling off. And soon enough,
Never do
fatigue
that.
took over, and they were both fast asleep. Until 11:30 that night, the park was filled with the soothing sounds of crickets and the river, but the peace was abruptly broken by the sound of tires nearby. The sound woke Terry up, and for a moment, she thought it might just be a group of teenagers messing around in the park. A moment later, though, the vehicle jumped the nearby curb and came barreling toward the tent as it weaved around picnic tables. Terry could hear the sound of the engine getting closer, but she couldn't have expected what would come next. The truck then slammed into the small tent where she and Ava were sleeping, and it didn't stop there. It rolled over the tent itself, crushing the fabric down around them, and came to a stop with its weight pinning Terry to the ground through the wreckage.
What the
Terry
fuck?
felt the crushing force against her chest and shoulders as the walls of the tent split apart. In the midst of this, she heard Ava screaming for the driver to leave them alone before a series of softer thuds followed. In the confusion, Terry realized this was not some sort of drunk prank or some random driver who had lost control. Someone had driven directly into the campsite on purpose, and that someone soon exited the vehicle with an axe in his hands. The attacker went to Ava first and started on her head again and again.
Oh
and
my
again.
god.
Terry, who was still pinned under the full weight of the truck, couldn't see the attacker's face, but she could tell it was a man. He was physically fit and dressed like a cowboy, and in the middle of all that chaos, there was one detail that stuck with her. When the attack on Ava was over, the man turned to Terry. She then begged and pleaded with him to take whatever he wanted and leave them alone. There was no sign that robbery had anything to do with what was happening, but in that moment, she was trying to say anything that might interrupt his plans for her.
I would have played dead.
The man then turned and got back into his truck, leading Terry to believe her begging had worked. Instead, he just put the truck in reverse to get it off Terry's body and got back out with the weapon. He then walked over to Terry and began on her as well. At one point, the man raised it slowly over her chest, and Terry caught it in her hands just above her heart. With it pressed between her hands, she started pleading with the man again. This time, he stopped, got back into the truck, and sped away. When the noise of the vehicle faded, the park went quiet again, almost unbelievably so.
Holy
the attack
shit.
had only lasted moments, and it was so quick that Terry could barely believe what had happened. She then crawled her
This
way
is the
over to Ava
70s.
and
They don't
put her
got
hand
cell
on the back of
phones.
her head to comfort her. Immediately, though, she could feel a massive gaping hole. Ava's wounds were clearly life-threatening, and Terry wasn't in much better shape herself. She had been left with devastating injuries: a broken right arm, a collapsed lung, a fractured collarbone, cracked ribs, a broken finger,
Holy
scalp
shit.
wounds, a chipped skull, and an injury so severe that a bone in her left forearm had been cut through. Somehow, despite all these wounds and the immense pain they caused, she got up onto her feet and made her way to the road. Almost as soon as she was on the pavement, she spotted another vehicle coming toward her and flagged it down. Inside were two teenagers, Bill and Darlene, and their truck came to a
Imagine being a kid taking your parents' car for a joyride and a fucked up woman comes on the fucking pavement. It's like, please help me. Dog, I would be so scared. Obviously, I hope they do the right thing. Reapy, hello, hi, hello, hi.
quick stop once they saw the woman in the roadway. The two then got out of the truck, and Darlene was immediately shocked by the sight of Terry. She was in such bad shape that blood was dripping from her soaked hair. Terry did her best to relate to the couple what had just happened, but her top priority was getting Ava help. Bill then backed his pickup toward the wrecked campsite and found Ava still wrapped in a sleeping bag, covered in blood inside what was left of the tent. As Bill and Darlene tried to help, a pair of headlights appeared in the distance at the edge of the park. For a terrifying moment, Terry thought the attacker had come back to finish what he had started, and he very well may have. The vehicle, possibly spooked by Bill and Darlene, seemed to sit there watching them for a few moments before turning away. Only
Sick
then
fuck.
did Bill load the women up and rush them to Redmond Hospital, but their injuries were far too advanced for such a small medical center to handle. Soon after they arrived, they were transferred to St. Charles Medical Center in Bend, Oregon, where Ava underwent a 9-hour emergency brain surgery. She survived in part because a piece of her own skull had lodged in her brain and blocked an artery, which prevented her from bleeding to death before surgeons could operate.
Holy
Terry,
shit.
meanwhile, had survived by fighting, pleading, and somehow staying mobile enough through her injuries to get help. The
Holy
attack at
shit.
Klein Falls, though devastating, had failed to kill either woman, but only just.
Oh my fucking god.
By the time police reached Klein Falls after midnight on June 23rd, 1977, the park had gone quiet again. The violence
I'm
was
so
over,
glad
but the
they
signs
both
of it were
lived.
everywhere.
Holy shit.
Investigators began with the physical evidence, and in the dirt, they found tire marks left behind by the attacker's truck. Officers studying the tracks concluded that the vehicle likely had 2 bald rear tires, while one front tire may have also been bald. The 4th tire seemed to show more significant tread. It was something, but it wasn't much. They didn't have a license plate, a clear facial description, or an obvious explanation
We got another 10 minutes. Hopefully they catch this fucker.
for why anyone would choose to run down 2 women. Meanwhile, back at the hospital in Bend, the limits of what investigators could learn became clear almost immediately. Avra had suffered such severe head trauma that she remembered nothing of the attack. Terry had remained conscious through most
Oh
of
my
it, but
God.
even she had not seen the man's face. What she could offer was more of an impression than an identification. She told police that the man was young and in shape and that he was dressed as a cowboy. More than that, though, Terry remembered something.
Yes. Huh? Oh, I was just gonna sleep on a blanket. Okay. 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 Oh. Anyway, back to this.
Else oddly specific in the middle of it all. The man looked meticulous. He wore his clothing neatly and had an air of someone who cared about his appearance.
Oh, he's
It wasn't much to build a
vain
case on, but
narcissist
it was
too.
the clearest picture anyone had. And that was the maddening part of it all from the beginning. This hadn't been a distant shooting or a hit and run on a dark highway. The attacker had driven directly into their tent, gotten out of the truck, and attacked both women. It was intimate and prolonged.
Yeah.
More than anything, it was deliberate, and yet he still managed to leave almost nothing behind. For the first few weeks of the investigation, it looked like police might never get that one lead that would point them toward a suspect. But then, just as suddenly as the attack occurred, a name surfaced.
Oh,
A local woman in Redmond told authorities she heard that the attacker
Richard
was a
Dam.
17-year-old named Richard Dam.
Dick Dam.
Detectives
Crazy
then
name.
interviewed him more than once and learned that around the time of the attack, he had been involved in a conflict with his girlfriend, Janie Fraley. Accounts
Crazy
differed on
name.
the exact timing of that fight, but investigators understood there had been a confrontation between the couple around the date of the attack. Janie would later deny that they had fought on that specific day, but she acknowledged that fighting between them was common. What stood out more was that Richard never provided police with a clear, specific account of where he had been on the night of June 22nd. That alone was not proof of anything, of course. Small towns generate rumors in great numbers, and police hear plenty of names that go nowhere, but this one didn't go away. It actually kept circling back, helped along by the fact that Richard seemed to fit parts of Terry's description in a multitude of ways. He was a local and known to have a bit of a temper. He dressed like a cowboy and, according to the people who knew him, was capable of violence. And the most important person in that part of the story was Janie. She was also 17 at the time, and what she told police should have set off alarms. Janie said that the day after the attack at Klein Falls, Richard tried to drown her in a pond.
Huh?
He likely would have succeeded too if another girl had not intervened by picking up a
Huh?
rock and threatening to hit Richard in the head with it. Janie then apparently told police that she believed Richard was also responsible for the attack on Terry and Avra. Instead of being treated as a critical witness, though, Janie was largely brushed aside. She said that when
Oh, yeah. My favorite part of like investigations taking forever is police not doing their fucking job, bro. What the fuck? What the fuck?
she reported Richard's attempt to drown her, she was effectively told that since he had not actually killed her or seriously injured her, there was little point in pressing charges.
Yeah, my boyfriend tried to drown me. Oh, well, there's nothing really can do about that. He didn't really seriously injure you or attempt, or like you didn't die. You didn't die. But did you die though? Holy fuck. You know what? I'm starting to get the picture of why there was so much crime and murder in the 70s. Why so many unsolved cases in the 70s. I can change him. I don't think she's trying to change him. She's trying to report him to the police. The police are the ones being like, this is fine. The police still do that shit. Yeah, luckily we have more technology now, so the police have their job done for them.
And because she had previously tried and failed to get authorities to uphold the complaint against him.
Hey, girlie, he said, I'm gonna fucking kill you in Minecraft. So that's not a crime.
Police apparently viewed her as someone just trying another route to get him in trouble by accusing him of the attack at Klein Falls.
Oh my God.
Richard was also given a polygraph test that came back inconclusive, largely because he had apparently been under the influence of methamphetamine during the test. He was given a second one on June 14th, 1977, and the results pointed towards signs of deception, but again, ultimately inconclusive. During the second test, Richard also reportedly cried and claimed that the thought of the axe attack hadn't left his mind since it happened. He stopped short of confessing and said no more, though. Janie, however, was far from done. She would later add more details that made the whole picture.
Dog, why would you cry about an incident like that if you weren't, like, fucking physically there? Like, what? Like, why the fuck would it even, like, oh yeah, I heard about that. That's crazy. Did the police mention the axe to him? I'm sure it made it in the news. Women ran over and axed in campground. That's pretty much a headline. Ugh. Fuck. Jesus.
To look worse. She said Richard changed the tires in his truck shortly after the attack, and that a toolbox that had been in the truck bed was no longer there. Inside that toolbox, Richard was known to carry an axe or a hatchet. Janie also admitted that he had been physical with her throughout their relationship. Despite all of this, though, police didn't think they had enough to move forward. Janie was seen as unreliable, and without hard evidence, her claims were largely dismissed. The frustrating part of all this was how much they had and how little they did with it. It had a young woman telling the police that her boyfriend, who had just tried to kill her, was responsible for the attack. It had a suspect who could not provide a clear count of his whereabouts that night.
I want the whole department fired.
Polygraph results that raised suspicion. But in the eyes of law enforcement, none of it was enough. Officially, the investigation into the Klein Falls axe attack ended in 1979 without an arrest. For Terry and Avra, there was no closure. Both women recovered from their injuries, although Avra was left with lasting vision problems caused by the trauma to her head. In the years that followed, the two returned to Yale and continued to be roommates, but they handled what happened to them very differently. Terry wanted to talk about it, but Avra, meanwhile, preferred to forget it ever happened.
Yeah, I mean,
in their own ways, they tried to carry on with life as normal, but for
Avra didn't even remember the attack. She thankfully didn't get to remember, but Terry unfortunately experienced the whole thing. Like, if that motherfucker, like, if I remember that happened to me and no one got arrested for it, oh, I'd be causing a stink about it my whole damn life. Yeah, remember that time I went to a campground because I was trying to, like, bike across the whole US? I was gonna be a really cool summer with me and my college roommate. And then we got ran over by some sick fuck with an axe who attacked us. And they never arrested anybody. Dog, I would be a fucking menace. That would be like a key piece of my lore. I would not be able to go to a single fucking social event without bringing that up. Oh my fucking God. Like, obviously they would handle it very differently because, again, Avra didn't remember anything, so why would she talk about something she didn't remember? Fast forward 40 years later, they now arrest you for social media posts. Well, it depends on the post, you know? That's how villains are made. This girl better than me. This girl better than me for real.
Terry, it would prove difficult. At first, when the case was closed without an arrest, she didn't pay it much mind. She wasn't going to launch some crusade in search of answers, and for the next 15 years, that approach worked for her. Eventually, though, after years of recurring nightmares about the attack, she reached a point where simply surviving what happened was no longer enough. So she decided to investigate it for herself. Her first idea was to make a documentary, but once she began digging, the story turned out to be larger and messier than she had imagined. This was more than just a matter of revisiting one terrible night in 1977. It meant reopening old relationships and looking through old rumors, suspicions, accusations, and failures. It also meant going back to Central Oregon, a place she swore she would never see again, and knocking on doors to see if anyone remembered anything important. As it turned out, there were many people willing to help her.
Oh,
it
nice.
seemed that the case had not disappeared from local memory as easily as it vanished from the official system. As she began going door to door around Redmond, she kept hearing the same thing. The people there believed they knew who was responsible. He was once a local kid with a temper who dressed neatly and resembled a cowboy. He kept a hatchet in his truck and lived near the park where the attack occurred. The person everyone knew as the Klein Falls Axeman was none other than Richard. As Terry interviewed people who had been around at the time, his name came up over and over. In talking with Janie, Terry learned of the fight the couple apparently had on or around the day of the attack.
Yeah, but according to police, she's innocent.
And Richard's attempt to drown her the day after. Other friends and former girlfriends painted a similar picture of him. It was one of drug use, volatility, violence, and apparently a habit of bringing up the Klein Falls attack to deny his involvement, even when no one had accused him at that moment. Janie gave Terry another detail that was especially troubling. She said she'd gone to Klein Falls State Park shortly after the attack and believed the tread marks at the scene matched the tires on his truck. Then came one of the cruelest discoveries in the entire story. While researching what had happened and trying to reconstruct the original investigation, Terry learned that the official records in the case had been lost.
What the fuck?
All the interviews, physical evidence, and crime scene photographs were gone. The very material that might have clarified...
Expecting cops to keep crucial evidence. Ha ha ha. Ugh.
What police had known and what they might have missed no longer existed. Incredibly, even despite this, she pushed on with her investigation. By the late 1990s, the outline of what Terry believed had happened at Klein Falls was about as clear as it was ever going to get. After years of nightmares, knocking on doors, and piecing together what the official investigation failed to preserve, she had come to believe without a shadow of a doubt that Richard was the man who attacked her and Avra in 1977. Janie believed the same thing, and so did the people in Redmond, who had been talking about him for years. Richard, meanwhile, for his part, denied everything as he always had. Terry's work eventually led to the Oregon State Police being convinced to reopen the case. However, tragically, in 1977, the statute of limitations for attempted murder in Oregon was only 3 years. That meant the window for bringing charges in the Klein Falls attack had closed long before Terry began her investigation in 1992.
God damn.
The case could be looked at again by police, but it could not be prosecuted. So instead of being a story that ended with the person responsible for the attack being held accountable, the case became an example for why law needed to change. In 1997, Terry was instrumental in helping change Oregon's statute of limitations for attempted murder.
Oh, hell
the
yeah.
legislation was passed, and while this was a victory in the sense that future cases would not run into the same barrier, the change was not retroactive. But even if it was, it wouldn't have mattered by that point. The statute changed from 3 years to just 6.
Ugh.
As of the last update on Avra, she was reported to be a mother of 3 children in 1997 and was working as a physician.
Oh, hell yeah.
The attack left her partially blind, but it didn't stop her from continuing to pursue her dreams. Terry, meanwhile, eventually told the story in her 2000 book, Strange Piece of Paradise, which recounted not just the attack itself, but what it meant to live with it after. By her own account, writing the book finally helped her move on with her life. As for Richard, the updates are few and far between. He continued to have troubles with the law for matters unrelated to the attack at Klein Falls throughout the 1990s, including an incident where he allegedly beat up a disabled man. There is no more recent information on his whereabouts, but as of the 2000s, he was known to still be living in Redmond.
Jesus.
If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. And a special thanks to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon or as a
Holy
channel
shit.
member. If you're interested, we offer early access videos that are released roughly a week before the regular YouTube uploads. Also, if you have a story suggestion, feel free to submit it using the form found in the description. Anyways, thanks again, and hopefully I will see
thank
you in
you.
the next one.
No, thank you. Fuck. Fuck, dude. Thank you.